What's up? It's 3 in the morning. Lake Charles. Bear with me. This is going to be really loud. Sorry about that. I'm going for a little drive to where the church of Scientology moved a mission to. When I moved back, I was here within 6 months. Kay McConnell, or Mary McConnell, I can't remember. Maybe you can check it out, Kaiba. Started a mission here. She was a missionary that Kathy Steiner got to open a mission in Lafayette in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000, something along those lines. Now you can probably hear me. This is a cheat, and you're going to hear double, but this is what we can do for today. Are you hearing me fine now? It sounds like I'm in a
box or something? No, I don't want to write. Can you hear that? Jan is your man. Yeah, a lot of folks here this morning. Juliana's here. Good morning, dear. Uh, I can only scroll so far up. Dragon Mad, welcome. Uh, Lorna, good morning. Lorna Huddleston. And Lisa. And Cynthia's here. And telling me the sound no worky. All right, great. It doesn't sound good. I don't think it sounds good because there's probably going to be a slight delay, and I'm an audio nerd. So, all right, here we go. I am, as I posted on the community tab last night, trigger warning on this stuff. Let me move this mic so you guys see my mouth. Uh, so this was 2015. Late 2015 or 2016. It was definitely before my surgery. I can see the youthful vigor in my eyes. And there, I'd been talking to some former Scientologists for years, from 2013 to 2015, and gradually sort of testing the waters to see if we agreed on certain things about how screwed up the church was. And there was a church in Lake Charles that moved there right after Hurricane Rita. There was Katrina in New Orleans, Rita in Lake Charles, and they moved a church here. And I was being aggressively recruited constantly by Kathy and the McConnells to do something. They wanted me back on staff. It had only been a year since I was in LA, so they wanted me doing something. Uh, and the mission was there for years and just very little activity as normal. And I was up one late night and I decided to go drive and check it out. I don't know how much footage I have of this, but the thing is my mental state from 2013 to 2015 and even up to 2017, it's just not. I'm going through change. I'm going through changes. So, trigger warning. I may say some things that might not be representative of what I feel today.
It's very it's abnormal to be driving around at this hour.
Oh, beachcomber, rub it in, why don't you? On a Monday morning, just packing up from the beach. That's a long weekend. Good for you. That's awesome. Welcome.
In the city that I live in. My dad used to say, hey, nothing good happens after midnight. And he's pretty well right about that.
Nothing happens good after midnight in that town, for sure.
But if you've lived in a city, you can drive any damn time you want to. No one gives you any weird looks or anything. And no one looks at people on the side of the road that are walking like they're freaks. You just never know what someone's going through.
Have you ever lived in one of these towns, or maybe you do live in one of these towns, where it's just not common to see someone walking down the road, like where everyone should belong somewhere, and if you're out past a certain time, you must be a criminal. That's sort of the attitude of most of the community. They want safe communities. Why they think someone walking down the street is unsafe, I don't know. But I've been pulled over for walking on the street because he's like, not walking on the sidewalk. There is no sidewalk, asshole. Good morning, poet. I'm so glad to see y'all this morning.
one thing that I did like about LA besides the food is, well, it's a double-edged sword. People didn't care what, people didn't, I don't know if it was that people didn't judge you or that they just didn't care. Maybe a little both. Had the greatest day and I went home and go to sleep. Woke up from a really weird dream where I was playing a show with my cousin Jesse, who's in Orange County right now. Very talented.
So my cousin, just a little side note, my cousin Jesse is the one that I play on KFUK radio, Jesse Taylor. I had a dream about her. We were playing a gig.
Singer, songwriter, wise beyond her years. And there was this sound guy in my dream that was, God, he was horrific. And that's what woke me up. It was like a nightmare. I was like, oh my God, I gotta deal with this kind of a sound guy. So I've been a sound guy for a long time, and you know, I know a good one when I see one, and I know a bad one when I see one. And this guy was not a very good sound guy, but anyway.
I had a bad dream about a sound guy. I'm more than a musician, you know. It's like I'm a sound guy. I'm a gamer. I'm all these things, and like this is one of these things, very specific kind of nightmare where you have a bad sound guy. That's funny.
Getting close now to where the mission was. And Kathy was trying to get me recovered. Oh, this is a one-way. I'm going to have to go around the block. Kathy Steiner was trying to recover me for anything. A mission, working on staff at Narconon. Wait a minute. Oh, yeah, I gotta go around. Working on staff as a purification IC or a counselor, a drug counselor, entrance counseling.
Good morning, Selena.
At Narconon in Baton Rouge. They no longer own missions, by the way. They mysteriously stopped their involvement with missions not long after I left staff.
So it's not so mysterious anymore. Tom and Kathy, they got reported for the attempted suicide in the mission. There were KRs written, and that was probably a good excuse for RTC, COS, whatever, to cut them from the mission network and revoke their license for missions. But they still run Narconons, mostly Narconons. They don't have any missions. They had to transfer all of that over to new people. Yeah, it's the Oregon Baton Rouge, so they don't technically control it anymore. But they have, and Tom passed, but Kathy runs the Narconon retreat in Baton Rouge. Just an hour up the road, you can go get a Narconon and end up at the org, get trafficked and stuff. Oh, Selena, I go by many names. My legal name is Marcus Lee Sawyer. My stage name is Devontae LaFleur. My gaming name is Crow Bennett. My YouTube handle for trauma-related stuff is in Theta, which I'm sure by now you probably know what that means. But it's spelled incorrectly per the Scientology definition is ENTHETA in Theta, as in without Theta. So soulless. The not corrupt, bankrupt. Those who are bankrupt of any life force, which is referred to as the Wog World, which is what my channel used to be called. But I didn't know what that meant. All I had the context of what that word meant was from Scientology. And so I changed it to IN Theta, from Wog World to in Theta, which in Scientology means bankrupt of life force. And so it's a little play on words. And those are my handles. I don't think I have any more. Some people call me Batman. That's a legit thing. There's people who call me Batman. And then there's a girl in the neighborhood calls me Mr. LaFleur.
So they kind of went behind the scenes with the pseudo Scientology. They weren't giving it away that it was Scientology. In other words, Narconon. So this is where
I was in college at the time. So yeah, that must have been 2014, 2015. No, 2015, second semester that year. So around New Year's, I'm guessing. Maybe after, this would have been before I did the interview with Aaron. Hell, I don't know.
where the Church of Scientology in Lake Charles, Louisiana was.
So that's the Church of Scientology, Lake Charles. Let me back up a little bit.
Scientology, in other words, Narconon. So this is where.
All right, so big building. This was the front lobby area. It extended a few feet into the building there. And then there was a whole kitchen over on this side for staff and public. And then over here, like behind that, was a whole maintenance area where all kinds of, well, at that time it was supplies because they bought that right after Hurricane Rita. And they cleaned the property up real quick. And I mean, it was pretty crazy, like how fast they got it all done. But I believe it's Mary McConnell. Her husband was a contractor. I talk about that in a little bit, but he, he has a large business doing this stuff, flipping houses and whatnot, real estate. So they got that place looking tip top before anyone else in the area could, because it was just too expensive to fix it that fast. They had to deal with insurance claims. McConnell's just came in and bankrolled it. So an interesting thing to see. And I thought it was very strange that they built a mission in Lake Charles. There was only Scientologists they knew of in Lake Charles was me. I don't know any other Scientologists in Lake Charles. Crazy.
The Church of Scientology in Lake Charles, Louisiana was. This was it. They had a purif in there, they had a course room, they had everything that a mission is supposed to have, because you cannot open a mission without this extensive, checklist. And also, let's not forget all of the materials multiple copies of. It's a huge sale. It's just sales. So it's right next to the post office, which was great for their BMO, I suppose. If you don't know what that is, that's bulk mail officer.
Right, so they had a bulk mail section. I mean, they really had the whole deal set up just like it was at Ventura or Melrose.
Said it's 3 in the morning. If I stick around here, there'll be a cop drive by and want to know, what are you doing here? Because nothing good happens after midnight. McConnell, I believe, was the last name of the lady and gentleman who had the Lafayette mission and Lake Charles mission. I have no idea if they're still involved in Scientology. Mr. McConnell was a very successful construction contractor in Louisiana. Yeah.
I hope I'm not getting McConnell wrong. I know the mission holder's name was Mary, and there was Mary McConnell. I'm pretty sure she was the one. Okay, whoever owned the Lafayette mission, it's the same person. So it could be a different Mary, but I believe it was McConnell's. Or at least if the McConnells would have been the ones to have done all of the construction and whatnot.
When I met him at the mission in 2000.
Hello, beach. Yeah. Good morning, Mock. I didn't say good morning to you. Sorry about that. I was trying to get audio crap sorted out.
6 after Hurricane Rita.
Cheers.
When they bought the building. He seemed quite stressed out about the money and the tithes.
So I did go tour the mission several times from 2006 to 2008, and because they had this big video that they were showing everybody, and they were doing massive call-in, come watch this video, and it was just a video of Miscavige talking about how upstat everything was, and now is the time more than ever to blah, 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 clear the planet, yada, yada. Propaganda crap. And, I mean, and that's all it was. It wasn't even like videos like Bitch Mrisker used to make, where they explain something like the reactive mind or the Theta or anything like that. It was just David Miscavige at this big event for 3 hours, just yammering on and on and on, and patting himself on the back, and having other people come up and inflate his ego. So, by the way, this is a requested video from the user L. Ron Hubbard, who's been a subscriber since before this time, but I thought was an OSA troll, so I banned L. Ron Hubbard from my channel for 7 years. Turns out, nah, just a regular person on the internet that is pretty good at role playing L. Ron Hubbard for what I assume is someone who's never been in Scientology, but maybe knew somebody in Scientology. So this is a requested video, and I'm curious because that person, you must have a really good memory, Commodore.
Of course, it was all for the greatest good, for the greatest number, is what I remember hearing. So He was justifying it. So listen, this is what I'm wanting to do, and I'll make another video just to post on Patreon, I guess.
At the time, I had a filmmaker friend in Lake Charles who ran a company called Digital Impact and was doing a lot of commercial work, and was always coming up with ideas for films. And he had a film called Lorelei, and but he was very interested in this whole story about how staff and stuff was. And I had a specific vision on how to show it. And this is what I'm talking about, I think, in some of this video, a series called The Mission. And yeah, it kind of fell on its face, fell flat on its face for a multitude of reasons. But anyways, I still think it's a pretty cool concept.
There's a building that I have access to that I showed you last week. And
it would have all been guerrilla filming, and ultimately that was probably a big issue.
It's been donated for the purposes of recreating life on staff. And it's on our street that is just really long street. Looks pretty metropolitan. It's been updated. And I'm gonna park over here by my buddy's taco stand. The guy I went to high school with. Actually, Travis, my brother, he went to school with him. I just met him through Travis. Brett Starnes has Travis, you watch all my videos, but this is Brett's place. Sloppy's downtown. I'm so proud of him. So what my plan and goal is to recreate and just show.
So I just have plans and goals. Like I look at it and I'm like, targets and goals, plans and goals. What's the difference?
What it is like on staff. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen a true depiction of staff. Now, closest thing, Louis Theroux's My Scientology movie, when they're doing the TRs and they're doing musical chairs, and the guy that they cast is Miscavige. That, what they call in Scientology, a beingness, that beingness that guy had, was replicated in executives all over the world. Everyone assumed that beingness that was on purpose. And I don't mean on purpose like you did that on purpose. On purpose in Scientology means you are down with the program. You are in it to win it. You are clearing the planet. You are trying to suck the Theta out of the world and push the Theta in. Get ethics in. Third and fourth dynamic activities. All the time. So
third and fourth dynamic activities are group activities and activities that involve people outside your group. In other words, you're trying to get people in your group. So you're going outside of your group. And the fourth dynamic, mankind in general, and reaching out and doing activities with that specific you have a specific target and a specific goal. Same thing in the group. And in Scientology's, in Hubbard's elucidation of the dynamics, you have 7 dynamics, or 8. If you believe in God, is the 8th. So each one of these dynamics is supposed to be balanced. You can almost look at it as sort of like a chakra type setup with ethics or something. And because this is tied to ethics technology, dynamics. And equal time balance. There is a certain amount of balance that we desire, or we need in our lives. And when you focus too much on one thing, it can throw other things off balance. I don't think I need to give any examples. I think every one of you understands exactly what that means. If I'm right, Chad did it.
I haven't seen it. And let me tell you that if you see it, or at least this is what I believe and what I feel, maybe this is just something that I want to see. It might be cathartic for me. I don't know. But something in my gut tells me that if people see what it's actually like to be on staff, where I was at least, there were missions that were pretty lax. Like, I can understand actually people being a little skeptical of the conditions that I describe on a mission staff, because there's a lot of missions that were ho-hum Scientology missions, okay? Namby-pamby, panty-waist dilettante missions, KSW. We were held to a higher standard. I talked to an ex-Scientologist. Well, no, she's just an inactive Scientologist. Can't mention her name. Her father's in the Sea Org. And I disconnected from her tonight because of that. I don't want her to... I didn't know she was still a Scientologist. But here's the funny thing. She didn't know that I was a Scientologist. And this was a girl that was in one of these celebrity networks that I was, as an FSM, given...
FSM is a field staff member, and I got distracted by the chat, so I'm going to go back a hair.
A girl that was in one of these celebrity networks that I was a Scientologist. Did from her tonight because of that. I don't want her. Can't mention her name. I talked to an ex-Scientologist. Well, no, she's just an inactive Scientologist. Can't mention...
Okay, so that was kind of like me. I was inactive from 2005 to 2008, and then in 2008 I started looking up, because that's when Mike left. I found out Mike left, and I started questioning everything. It's weird how that stuff coincides, but yeah, that was a big blow, like Mike leaving. Like, that affected people deeply. It was a shockwave.
Her name. Her father's in the Sea Org. And I disconnected from her tonight because of that. I don't want her to... I didn't know she was still a Scientologist. But here's the funny thing. She didn't know that I was a Scientologist.
So this is a precarious, weird little situation that happened as a result of my Facebook, because I deleted 2 of my Facebook accounts because they were full of Scientologists. I mean, not full, but both those accounts had 5,000 people in my network. That's why I had to have 2. So 10,000 people, I couldn't go out and individually remove all the Scientologists, much less the ones that are... I don't even know who's displaying if they're a Scientologist or not. So in 2019, I deleted all of that and just started over and made my new account. Um, and because it was ex-Scientologists and people publishing like Aaron Smith Levin and so everybody, Karen, and also active Scientologists. You see how that could be a problem if I'm posting stuff. And that's when I got my ComEv, not in 2019, but around 2013, I got my ComEv. And so this is 2015. And some Scientologists that I knew on Facebook, we were talking and then found out that I was an ex and her dad's in the Sea Org and she disconnected from me. But we didn't even know that I didn't know she was a Scientologist and she didn't know I was a Scientologist. How the hell did that happen?
And this was a girl that was in one of these celebrity networks that I was, as an FSM, given carte blanche to hang out with. When I say carte blanche, I mean as long as I was there to promote Scientology and get people into Scientology in that network of friends, of people, it was okay that I go to parties. It was okay that I set up gigs.
I never went to the donkey punch parties. I wasn't cool enough. I'm glad.
And I was supervised and questioned and constantly, well, what exactly is happening and where exactly is this going to be and what time are you going to be there and what time will you be back, and let me get a list of names of potential FSM, of potential people that we can get in, and let's get their numbers and let's get all this stuff. So,
good morning, witness.
When she said, I didn't know you were a Scientologist, it kind of blew my mind a little bit, because her boyfriend was a Scientologist. Her boyfriend come and played the open mic nights. She'd come to the open mic nights and I was there. I played the open mic nights. But it occurred to me that
I'm talking about the Melrose mission and the open mic nights every Wednesday that me and Travis put on.
There might be a lot of people who didn't even know that I was a Scientologist in these networks that I was part of, and that was probably the idea.
So, woo, Morty's mind blowers, right? So I'm in Hollywood and I'm at Melrose Mission, and there are people that I'm reconnecting with years later that didn't even know I was a Scientologist, even though we met and played music and, hung out outside the mission. And as an FSM, it was totally fine that I did that so long as I had targets and goals. And when I say targets, that's people. People, target, goal, what to do with them. Get them into Scientology, find their ruin. I mean, it's hard to describe, but whenever you're doing Div 6ing, which is the dissemination, or it's part dissemination and part public relations. You are, the product. Your product is people, and so when you're looking out, like say body routing or selling books, and you believe what Hubbard has discovered, it's like an alien world, and all these people are broken, and you're the only one that knows how to fix it, and you're still learning how to fix it, and you make mistakes, and your case supervisor punishes you, and blah 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 blah. But when you're out there in the world, and you're at like an FSM, uh, you have the ability to be outside the church for a while. Uh, some of these people did not even know I was involved, and I said that's probably by design.
This was a pet project of CC Int by way of Rachel Miner, who had been conned.
And since I brought her name up, I just have to say that still I have nothing but love for Rachel, and I feel she was victimized and just hasn't talked about it. She may have been, gagged at some point and maybe not even realize. I don't think she would ever sign some kind of payoff. But she may have already signed. She may have signed. She's a very trusting individual. But yeah, so haven't heard any of her speaking about it, and what happened. But she runs a nonprofit called Random Acts of Kindness, and she's got it's not scoliosis. It's oh, I feel like an idiot now. It's a spinal condition, and she can't really work anymore. She used to be on Supernatural, and I forget the character she played, but she's a fantastic actress. And yeah, so she was used to jumpstart the Melrose mission as a personality, as a friend of a lot of people. Like there's a lot of people who knew Rachel Miner. She married Macaulay Culkin. They had divorced, and she had a very large network of people, and great person to manipulate into opening a mission or any kind of nonprofit that's supposed to be helping people. So, anyways, that's what I'm discussing. Morning, Pete. Just explaining away the videos from yonder past.
Into it by Kathy Steiner, who,
yeah, she was a demon in Supernatural. If you look it up, it's on IMDb. It'll tell you her name. It's probably some satanic sounding name.
their connection, who the hell knows? I don't know how they got hooked up. I don't know how Kathy met Rachel, because Kathy was never on lines, as far as I know, at CC or Tom. More than likely, the DSA at CCN.
That's the Director of Special Affairs at Celebrity Center International.
Was in talking to missionaires, and CC.
Oh, Pete says, I'm learning your style and what you do here the more I watch. What is it you would say you do here? I work with people. Can't you see? The engineers can't work with people, so I talk to the engineers and then I work with the people. Well, why can't the engineers just talk directly to the people? Because I'm good with people. Can't you fucking people see that? What is wrong with you people? The coffee shop one, yeah, that was last week. That was the first seminar that I did, and the only seminar that I've ever done on Scientology. And there were in attendance some other former coercive groups, one of which I was surprised to see there was a Buddhist cult in and around Southwest Louisiana. Witness, You laughing at the Office Space shit, man? I need to go get a fish and just gut it right. Hey, you know what? You know what, Bob? I think I'm just gonna leave for the day. Fucking love that show. Take my stapler, set the building on fire.
See, Int realized that with the anonymous hacks and the things that were stolen.
Oh, Commodore just landed. All right. Well, this is per your request. We can't go back in time. Already shown the picture, but you can go back in time. So we're just about to the part 2. It was about 15 minutes per video, so we're halfway through.
And the OT materials that have been recently published on sites like Operation Clambake and whatever other sites.
So that's a good point to bring up, is that some material was harder to get. ICANN had, the International Cult Awareness Group, had copies of some of the advanced materials, but Scientology took ICANN out, like executioner style, and the federal government was like, okay, well, whatever. And so until Anonymous hacked and breached and whatever they got, I mean, they may have got it from ICANN, who knows, but when they published it on WikiLeaks, 2008, something like that, you know, it was maybe Mike provided that, who knows, but you know, the Anonymous hack, there was more than one, and over a period of time. So yeah, I mean, once Anonymous got what they could get, as much as they could, you know, it was distributed to places like Xenu.net, and Mark Bunker and all kinds of people. But not everyone, like if you were already paranoid to get on the net as a former Scientologist, like these sites would scare you. So the proliferation of it, and it just becoming more and more available as more and more people, from the attention that Anonymous gave the church, because it's a church, the federal government, our big other culture, calls it a church. In the United States, it's a church. You know, what constitutes a church at this point? Hell, I ought to start one. Okay.
They wanted to get the public inside the church so that it's a bubble, you know.
That I know, the Van Allen belt is always a bitch. It just depends on the traffic of the asteroids, Commodore. Sometimes it's okay. Sometimes it'll make you late. I know what you mean. That Van Allen belt. Van Allen Beltway.
You know, Chris Shelton talks about this a lot, having been a Sea Org terminal that was damage control. You know, he remembers and talks about times when Scientology was under heavy scrutiny, and during those times, recovery is a constant, and everyone's working on recovery, because you want anyone who's had exposure to Scientology inside while the controversy's going on. Afterwards, not so much of a big deal. When things cool down, people can be, you know, freelance, public, indie Scientologists, and whatever.
Okay, I'm talking about media blackouts, I believe.
Not so much of a, because you want anyone who scrutiny, and he remembers and talks about times when Scientology was under heavy scrutiny, and during those times, recovery is a...
This is Chris. I was talking about Chris Shelton.
A constant, and everyone's working on recovery, because you want anyone who's had exposure to Scientology inside while the controversy's going on. Afterwards.
So what that means is a lot of call in and a lot of recovery, get people in. This is why they're trying to constantly get me in to watch this damn video that COB, basically, for the negative press that they're getting, what he was doing was creating his own propaganda, and the mission orders and the org orders were to get people in and watch the video to tell them the real truth, right? Simple concept, right?
Not so much of a big deal. When things cool down, people can be, freelance, public, indie Scientologists, and whatever. But you didn't, at that time, the internet was still relatively new. It wasn't new, but it was worth their time and effort to get people back in and on services, on lines, to prevent blows, to protect your GI, gross income, and to keep the field active.
All right, so that was part 1. Here's part 2.
My phone overheated. So, part 2. These should be in sequence. Now, Kaivago, as far as your question on what would Alex and Adam say if I got them on camera, well, I don't know.
Alex was a baseball player we recruited at a Ventura, and Adam was the bookstore officer in Ventura and was raised in Baton Rouge at Scientology school, if you want to call it that. Daycare.
I know all of what Alex has told me, and there's things that his sister has told him that he's told me. And it's not bombshell shit. It's the same crap you hear everywhere else. But I can't put words in their mouth. And just because he said it's okay that I mentioned his name doesn't mean he wants to talk about it. Now, Adam, on the other hand, fellow Louisianian, boat captain, awesome individual, hell of a guy, total asshole on staff though. Hated to work with him, hated the guy, hated his guts. Sometimes, not all the time. But Adam was a very upstat individual, and a kakan most of the time. A kakan is somebody who's untouchable. And the reason he was untouchable, and, I'll let him speak for himself in due time, because I am going to contact Adam. Before he went off to Brazil to work, I drove down and saw him. I was only able to stay for 20-30 minutes, but it was worth the trip. He's back in Louisiana now, so and I owe him a song, because
it was his birthday. I went down there and visited. If Adam were to talk, I don't know if y'all understand Adam. He's from Gaydon, Louisiana. He grew up at the tip, uh, in Golden Meadow, and he speaks some French too. And but just even his English, it just said, no, man, I don't know shit. Down the road, you want some ice? You get is yeah, very Creole, but he would say, no, I'm not Creole or Cajun. I'm a Kunas.
Well, I just do. Adam has no fear. Okay, it's similar to my situation. All right, I don't care. I'm not afraid of Scientology. I'm not afraid of the OSA. I'm not afraid of ex-Scientologists trying to hack my accounts. Good luck. Really, good luck. I'm just not, I don't care anymore. I did live in fear for quite a while. That is why most people don't talk about it. And this whole Melrose thing.
It might not just be fear for not, it could be other things. There are people who have family in the Sea Org, and, it's not necessarily fear. It's way worse. As always, it's always worse. It's like, it's always just when you think it's terrible, there's always something worse.
That happened that no one is talking about. I feel very much alone. I do feel like nothing I say can actually be verified. So that's a shitty feeling.
Well, I will say this: when we were doing Backflash, a lot of the stuff was validated and verified, not just for me, but for Doug too. We were able to put pieces together, and I think that's a real issue for like something like OSA or Scientology, is that when you get, it's one thing to have people leave that are sort of on their own and they weren't connected. Like me and Chris Shelton were in the same circles all the time, but we never really met. I think maybe I met him once, but I don't even think I met him. I think I just passed him in the Ventura mission while he was on his way to the executive meeting. And I guess the good news is that when he was there, it wasn't like the mission was in bad shape and he was coming to throw assign ethics conditions to everybody. Otherwise we might have a strained relationship post Scientology. So that's good. But oh, what the hell?
But I'm not going to make anyone, I'm not going to try to coerce anyone into speaking. I've had people tell me, well, why don't you just go on and move on with your life? And I have. But here's the thing. Just because I've moved on doesn't mean I have forgotten. Just because I have forgiven doesn't mean I have forgotten. And the issue that I have is that this...
So here's a bit of a soapbox moment. I'm feeling it coming on. Yeah, I can kind of see it in my face too. All right, soapbox moment. I'm predicting.
Still happens to other people. Now, I'm not saying people who aren't talking about what happened to them are wrong. or in some way immoral for not having feelings about people who they don't know, who are experiencing similar fates that we did. Those people will learn on their own, in their own time. And I mean, that's how it happened with us. So
basically, I think what I'm saying here, and at the time I was in McNeese studying psychology, so I was kind of learning some of the groundwork for the beginning of like understanding and healing. Um, but like, there is no timeline for any specific person and their trauma, so it just has to happen as it happens. Um, and there's no telling how long it takes. I've talked to Chris when he first started broadcasting. He was like, he said, well, I've been told that I've recovered almost fully, completely recovered from the cult before, like within months of leaving. To speak to him years later, he's like, "Oh yeah, I was so wrong about that," because it's really probably a lifetime of healing.
um, I don't have any. I don't hold any judgment over people for not speaking out. Um, but for me personally, because I have always had an interest in the inner workings of the mind, the brain. How does the brain work? How do people do the things they do? Why do people do the things they do? This is why I was a psychology major in 1999, and this is why I'm a psychology major today. What makes people do these things? How can people be so cruel? After the Nuremberg trials, there was a lot of research done about how someone could be so cruel, because in the Nuremberg trials, the doctors, the scientists, people experimenting on other human beings in such a cruel and horrible way, a lot of them answered similarly.
Do my job.
We did it because it was our job. And so the Ash conformity experiments, the experiments on authority and obedience to it, explained a lot of that type of behavior. But when I look at Scientology, that's what I see. I see Nazis. I see an organization that has modified this agenda that was similar to the Nazis. I mean, the Ubermensch is an OT. Homo novus, new man. This is similar to the Ubermensch. Luckily, Scientology hasn't taken society by the roots like the Nazis did in Germany in the 1930s.
I just want to point out historically that it was about 30. The Nazi Party started out with about 30,000 people, and that was a very small percentage of people that they were able to overthrow. So, just like Sun Tzu says, you don't, with the right people, you don't need a lot. You got to have the right people. You got 30,000 real nut jobs, yeah, for sure.
But that doesn't change the fact that it exists. And just because they're not their own sovereign country, sovereign nation, and have a thriving ideology of hate and bigotry and control and pseudoscience, doesn't mean that they're any less evil. And having been part of something that evil, knowing the evil that exists within it, still is there and hurting people. Personally, I can't not say anything. That's me. So,
I do remember feeling a little frustrated that there were 3 people behind me, and only one person came out and did anything, said anything. Travis did an interview with Aaron after I did mine in 2017, and Adam got cold feet, and and then Jason went back after years. It's more recently. It's mind blowing that one of my good friends and all of his family are now back in. It's heartbreaking, especially for the kids. I mean, you know, Jason and even his wife. Okay, y'all want to do that, fine, but like the conditions. Sawyer, I mean,
I appreciate everyone who watches the videos big time, because it verifies and
Witness, you're welcome. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time. I pulled a lot of videos because there was a period of time where I was just sick of the idea of people watching me, not on YouTube, like people watching me. So I had to shut it off for a little bit, and I just backed all my videos up and even changed my channel name to just a generic channel name, and all that seemed to calm down. And I needed to do that until I could sort of get to terra firma, because I was in a bad way. Maybe I was fair gamed. I don't know. You know, the best fair game is that there's no proof. So if I was, I wouldn't know. Um, but yeah, I mean, hmm, I guess you're welcome. You know, I don't know. I feel like this is a public service more than anything that I deserve any merit for.
it lets me know that what I think about Scientology, and the fact that I even talk about it still, it doesn't make me crazy. It doesn't make me stuck in the past, because I don't feel stuck in the past. It's just, I just can't fathom that this organization still gets a pass. you know. And I also, there's only a limited amount of benefit in my opinion to simply telling your story. I've told my story. Okay, it's not dissimilar from many others. In fact, my story is really nothing in comparison to some others that have lived it for 30 years plus, and that still live it. So once you get that out of the way, like why am I still talking about it? Okay, well, because it's important to me that people see, not hear. You see with your eyes, you hear with your ears, and a picture is worth 1,000 words. The Louis Theroux Scientology movie was the closest thing I saw to being on staff, only in the small portion of the film where they're doing TRs.
Have you guys seen the Louis Theroux My Scientology movie? If you haven't seen Louis Theroux's My Scientology movie, you should definitely check it out, just for the part that I'm talking about. And there might be clips on the internet. It's the part where they're doing TRs. And it's pretty intense. And that's just sort of just a little teaspoon of what it's like to essentially operate as a staff member. You're a particle in a big machine.
That's it. And it's hard for me to describe it in words. You have to see it. You have to see the interaction. See how socially different it is. It's so different. Being on staff, interacting with int terminals.
One of the main things that I really wanted to show is the dehumanization, how dehumanized it is. I don't think there's anything that I've seen in a television series that could beat like a hard-nosed like org or mission or Sea Org level of dehumanization. And it could actually be really funny, but it could, be dramatic as well. It could be a dramedy.
Interacting with executives, interacting with each other.
I haven't seen The Righteous Gemstones, but I have a feeling that, it could be something kind of like that. And if you haven't seen Michael Douglas and Alan Arkin's last work, The Kaminsky Method, there's some really great stuff with Haley Joe Osment, who plays a former Flag Sea Org Reg, who steals several $1 million from Flag and is on the run and runs back to Hollywood to his mom and his grandfather to protect him because they're industry people. It's great. Highly recommend it. Kaminsky Method.
There is a distance that's created between every single person, yet everyone is together. No one really thinks on their own. It's a group thought process. When you make originations, and this is pretty much a derogatory term, an origination, which is a thought of your own.
This is a lot of what I was thinking about was the language, because I was starting to relearn the language to sort of figure out why I spoke it so, not fluently, but I would speak it to other people, you know, and they kind of got like the word responsibility, like that meant something completely different to me. Originating something meant something completely different to me. Um, a problem was something that meant something completely different from what most people call a problem. And because I had taken all of these definitions and replaced them with these concepts that were not representative of our typical language. So, you know, yes, it's word salad, but it also has a whole lot of like conceptual structure that goes along with it, and how you think about things, how you arrive at decisions and decision making.
That origination will be acknowledged in some form or another.
Bach Buddy shows. Okay, hold on a minute. L. Ron Hubbard. Marty Rathbun went potty after the and I think Louis sent him bananas. Uh, that would have probably just pissed him off. Shows how Marty is so defensive. Um, yeah, I mean, Jesus Christ, Marty is a whole subject. You know, can't get into that in this video. Because it's a big subject.
Hopefully, if you're lucky, it's not acknowledged with ethics handlings. Because those can get really complicated. And what ends up happening when you do originate and you do end up in a complicated ethics handling is that you're coerced into admitting things that you either did or imagined that you did. And
this goes along with fair game, because almost everyone has shown this policy. They say it's canceled. It's bullshit. It's shown as a reference, and while it may be canceled, technically, it's still in circulation. Ethics officers read fair game, because ethics interfaces with OSA. If there ever is a need, then OSA would be calling, the ethics division, the HCO, Hubbard Communications Office. And so ethics staff need to be aware of this stuff. So if you can't, one of the points on fair game is if you can't find dirt, you make or manufacture it.
In this life or past lives. And if you could just imagine the list of horrible things a human being could do to another human being in this life or in past lives, then it's easy to see that when you have an original thought, an origination, the technique used in Scientology is to blackmail you to get you to stop having original thoughts. So,
all right, so having originations is essentially, I translate it into having an original thought of your own, and you get into trouble with ethics on that because it's not source, basically. So you need to be quoting source, or you need to be operating from source, which is L or H material. And I mean, it almost feels like you're given slack for having a personality until you say something that is not in line with say, I'd like to go play some music. All right, well, that's an origination, and you need to look at why you're not playing music. This is something that came up with me a lot. How are you causing this situation where you're not playing music? I'm like, I can't say that it's you, because if I say that, you're not going to approve my CSW. And if I say that it's me, then I'm just signing myself up for more work, slave, either labor or make up slave labor, ethics, mess work, matter, energy, space, time, cleaning, uh, doing tasks, whatever, um, harassing the post office, whatever the hell it is. So, like, having original thought, no go.
Without seeing it and just hearing it, and just hearing the stories. Oh, that's so messed up. I can't believe that happened. They separated their daughter from their mother. They separated the grandmother from the grandchildren. Yeah. What is this, some kind of freak show?
Oh, Lord. I think this is the version of me that Doug loves the most. Bach Buddy, original thought like this shit doesn't make sense. You're crazy. Yeah, I am probably. I mean, I won't deny I'm crazy. Not sure that's what you meant, but I won't deny it. Gleichschaltung, alignment is. I don't know if I said that right. Gleichschaltung. Alignment is definitely not Germany's best export. Okay. Leah's case is all about fair game that supposedly isn't a policy. Witness. Right. Well, I mean, on a technical level, I believe that the church can prove that it has been canceled. I do believe that. I'm happy to be wrong, just like me and Doug were ecstatic to be wrong about Danny, but I'm pretty sure that policy was canceled. But that doesn't mean it's not still in circulation. It just means it's canceled. And while they may say outwardly that fair game isn't a thing, inwardly they can say it. It's like, yeah, we told them it's canceled. Original thought. This is Bach Buddy. Original thought, like I'm tired and I want to bed and finish this mission tomorrow. You're crazy is what your thought was to the cult. Yes. Original thought. Yeah, original thought is like, hey, what the hell is wrong with you? And in certain states, people would get in, like, with sleep debt and food debt and overworking. We get some weird originations. This guy John Jones just one time in the middle of a staff meeting said, "Hey guys, I can't feel my hands." No bullshit. Everyone who was there would probably remember it to this day because we all just busted out laughing. Witness says, I was being funny. They say they don't fair game. Leah is bringing evidence, right? Yeah, of course. I've tried to get as much evidence as I could. I have a photo of a Jeep that was following me in the license plate, but there was no way to trace it because it was registered in Missouri. And apparently, according to Jeff and Karen, the Missouri registration law for vehicles, they don't have to disclose who owns it. So we weren't able to find out it was a dead end. And I didn't get the license plates of the other vehicles. There were at least 3, and they were going in 2 shifts, a man and a woman, and they would drive down the road 2-3 times a week, every other week. And that went on for about 4 months. And that's not even to mention like the insane divorce that I had. I mean, I was married by a Scientology minister from Baton Rouge. And I I know that the minister's husband, who is now the executive director at the org, uh, would talk to my ex-wife. So whenever we got divorced, there was this, at first it was a amicable separation type deal, and then out of nowhere, I get hit with the nuclear option, and you can Google what that is, and it's about what it sounds like. It's not literally I almost said it like George Bush, nuclear. It feels like a nuke went off in your mind because it's so like, what? She said what? They said what? And then you have to defend against yourself, and it destroys everything. You lose everything. Good morning, Belladonna. All right. And Witness says, yep, Missouri weird like that. I guess that's a thing, I mean, I figured Jeff would know way better than me, and Karen would know way better than me how to run this stuff. So, and Karen gave me an open invitation if I'm ever being followed, if I get pictures, to report the license plate, and they'll run it. So, that's a cool perk, I guess.
I mean, do we really care? Or do we just want to hear the fucked up story?
Now, this is related to that time period. It really did feel like there was just like a rubbernecking going on, you know? And nowadays, it's like the rubbernecking turned into people stopping and getting out, and like the whole SPTV community and the Never Ends have gotten out and are triaging and helping. So this video was before, it felt like people were just like, wow, that's really fucked up. Look at this shit. Like, hey man, have you seen this video? And there were a handful of people, some of whom are still in this chat, however many years later, 8 years later, I don't know how old this video is, that have been supportive and understand and listen. So thank you, everyone, for that. Very much. I didn't have anybody to talk to about this stuff.
It's kind of like watching, another cult documentary, like on Jamestown or the Moonies or something. It's like, it's a novelty. And that's disgraceful to me. It should be disgraceful to anyone who ever worked for a church. In my opinion, it should be disgraceful because, you should feel disgraced because, you were part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, this was, I think I had already sent you to the hole at this point, Commodore. Like, as soon as I saw you, maybe it was just triggering to see that freaking profile pic. That picture was posted in a lot of places in the orgs and missions and stuff. That specific picture that you use. And Belladonna, I don't know if the church was involved directly. That's the thing about fair game. If it's done right, you don't know. I can say this: after the hurricane, my ex-wife and I rode together in a car to go observe the damages of the dwelling that she was in, and I asked her if she knew about all of these allegations that were thrown against me in court, and she said that she didn't. Do I know if that's true? Do I believe her at this point? I don't know. but it doesn't really matter. It's all been just it's leveled everything. No use crying over spilt milk. But she says that she didn't know anything about all of those allegations, and it wouldn't surprise me if someone from the church would have sent some like information to the public defender, say like, if they happen to know that there was a divorce going on, if there happened to be someone monitoring divorce filings, um, you know, it- that's all speculative. I have no proof of any of that. Um, it could just be that she really, really hates me. I don't know. Or maybe I'm really that bad. But, you know, there's some stuff in there that's just absolutely ridiculous. So, um, and I can't say that Scientology was involved in my divorce with certainty because I don't know. And my ex-wife says that she didn't know anything about it. However, she did encourage me to go back to the church. Oh, you see, there's all these. It's just confusing, and it's not even worth any more worrying about.
And if you see someone else talking about it as if it was some sort of a freak show novelty, and people on YouTube
About the stress witness, it gave me cancer. I mean, the doctor, I say that, I don't know that. Again, qualifying statements. I'm not qualified to make this, assessment uh, in certainty. But the doctors that I've spoken to, I had 5 different doctors while I had the cancer stuff going on, and they all, well, not all, about 3 out of the 5 said, because some doctors are open and some are just kind of like shut off, and they're like, yeah, here, okay, let me check you for this. But some of them wanted to know history, like what's going on, whatever. And the ones that listened, they all said, wow, that's like a recipe for cancer. So this is why when I send Mike an email, I say, hey, man, say no more. Like tell people no more so that he can rest, because you need all of the rest that you can get. In my case, I couldn't afford the rest. And so it was more stress. So I'm lucky that I lived. And I'm lucky to have met someone to keep me alive. It's just really what it was. It was like scooping a half-dead animal off the side of the road with a shovel and throwing him in the back of the truck and bringing him home with you. That's what Cynthia did.
and people on television and in the news and in the press talking about, look at what this crazy shit Scientologists believe and what they do. I'm all for it, okay? Don't misunderstand. I want to make it very, very clear.
Not only did I have just regular like health issues, body issues, but I was having some mental health issues as well, and dealing with still and to this day domestic abuse. So it's not nearly as bad as it ever was. It can't be anymore. Man's too old, but I don't underestimate that, and neither does my mother. But I had some psychological issues I was working through as well, and part of the court orders was to go to therapy. And I'm like, sign me up. I'm ready. I had, broken free of the Scientology stuff, and I wasn't real sure about psychology or therapists, but I was definitely willing to give it a shot. I was studying psychology, learning all kinds of stuff. So I was like, yes, yes, yes. Just fix me as much as possible. I know I'm screwed up. And that was court ordered for both of us. So I've continued to this day. I think, well, it's irrelevant what my ex-wife has done, but she is not currently in therapy.
I'm all for it. Publish as much as you can on how crazy Scientology is. But understand that it is not just some novelty. It's not. This is happening to people every day. There are people suffering right now. There's people in ethics right now.
And that's sadly still true right now. There's some people in heavy ethics getting hammered on sleep debt, food debt, and overwork. And what that does to a person, it's just hard to imagine. And it's like a concentration camp, but prettier.
There's people who are sitting there doing TR0 all night long, haven't slept.
Good morning, Selma.
Because they didn't meet a quota or some shit. Because they talked to a girl. Because they wanted a relationship.
Oh, yeah. Hey, witness, my therapist said I'm job security for the rest of her life. She's going to get her PhD. I'm that fucked up. Woo! No, seriously though, it does help. Learning coping strategies helps tremendously for all kinds of things. Especially, having a YouTube channel in a trauma community, understanding that that's what it is. That's something Chris Shelton and I have talked about. That this is a trauma community, and there's going to be people who are traumatized. They're going to be going through periods of immense growth, and sometimes periods of sadness and grief and anger. They're going to go through a lot of stages, and it's important that everyone in that community respects everyone's space. That's something that I talk about with my current therapist. But yeah. What's funny?
Because they walked off pack base for 5 minutes and their senior didn't know where they were. I want to know.
They do run that tight of control. Like if you're at ASHO or AO or LA Day, any of those big blue buildings, if you're a posted staff member and you're not in your designated posted position or reporting from where you're supposed to be at the activity that you're doing, I mean, it's minute to minute almost from your executives.
What happened with Jason Lee? He's in Denton, Texas right now. That's 4 hours away.
Okay, yeah, here's more soapbox stuff. Jason Lee was at... Yeah, here we go.
Why did he leave? He was at the Melrose Mission opening. Hey, Jason.
I'm just calling out Jason Lee like anyone, like he can hear me. Hey, Jason.
Celebrities live in a bubble.
I don't have the Lulu bar on this profile, just so you know, if you wanted to hear Lulu.
When they're in Scientology, ethics don't apply to them the same way. I don't care what they say. Oh yeah, I've been in ethics. Yeah, okay, sure you have, buddy.
See, this is part of what I'm talking about. It could cause some disturbance in someone else's, trauma field. Like I'm saying that, public and other celebrities don't get the full ethics treatment. They get it tailored to them based on their activity level and how much they donate. So celebrities donate a lot of money, and so their ethics actions are generally, I'm not going to say milder, but they're much different. They're handled much more with kid gloves, whereas your Sea Org and org staff and mission staff and volunteer public are just different levels of punishment. And the lower you are, you know, the more extreme it seems to be. And then the public themselves get treated differently. Just depends on the public. So, like I said, it's tailor made. But there were, there were people who have said to me, "Well, you didn't really experience what I experienced in the same way." I'm like, I'm not saying I did, but it kind of feels like you're saying that I didn't experience shit. And so I was kind of soapboxing on that.
Yeah,
Yes, Jason Lee was in Mallrats. That's right, Mock. They can leave if they don't like it. Like I said, everyone gets their space in this trauma community. Everybody gets their space. It's only right.
You've been in ethics. You've had to write your OWs. You've done conditions. They've got dirt on you for sure. But you also were able to have some semblance of a life because you were providing money to the organization. You were contributing far and above and beyond.
I'm talking about people like Jason Lee and the Lightfields and the Mastersons and all that stuff.
What me, a lowly staff member, could do. So you got what we call libs. You get your libs, you get to go hang out with your friends. You get to make art and music. Beck, I mean, I shook your hand, bro.
Yeah, I'm really on a soapbox. I'm calling out Beck Hansen. I did shake his hand and I said hi to him. And then Kathy and Tom promptly were like, "Get the fuck out of here."
And you get to go out and make all this amazing music and get your auditing and talk. And it's essentially just therapy for you. Tom, same thing. You get to do whatever you want. You get free reign, man. But there are people suffering. I have bad days. I've had real bad days. I mean, I had, on staff, I had the worst day of my life, and it almost ended. Since then, I've had other bad days.
Here's the trigger warning shit that I was talking about in the community tab.
But I have learned that the emotion that you feel when these things happen, they tend not to last as long as the human mind thinks. If that makes sense. In other words, when you feel depressed and you feel suicidal, let's say, it feels like that pain and that suffering will just never go away. And you gotta, end it. It's almost like it's a scab you want to just rip off, blow your head off, hang yourself. It took a lot of therapy for me to understand that those feelings are very temporary, and it took a lot of reading of the Tao and some other literature, the Buddha Sutras and other great writings. The Art of War, great book. I try to live my life by those principles. So for those of you who consider me a non-believer or whatever, I'm not. I was raised Catholic, so I, had to. Here, you want to see?
Thank you so freaking much. I'm so broke all the time. I know you look, this whole studio was donated stuff. I know that sounds crazy, but if I'm not rich in money, I'm rich in friends. And they not only give me the shirt off their back, this guy gave me a DM42 that's in the background. Let me move out of the way. That was just given to me. I didn't have a place to put it for years because I was traveling with it. I'm traveling vagrant style, living on couches, carrying this big old thing. Everything's donated. Rick Nelson donated the panels on the wall, the green panels. Um, yeah, I have no source of income. I'm waiting on a disability claim that got reopened, another 2 to 5 months, and do a lot of editing and whatever. Spend a lot of time in the studio, and it doesn't, I don't get an hourly here, so I really appreciate that. And the Lulu Bark worked. I don't know how that happened, but it did.
If this insignia means anything to you, okay? To me, this is just an insignia. It's just this is so that people don't hassle me about my beliefs, because
where I was living at the time, yeah, I mean, I tell people I'm Scientologist, but if I got a crucifix on my neck, then they're like, oh, okay, whatever. You believe in Jesus, that's good.
beliefs aren't conventional. They never really have been. I don't know what happens when we die, and anyone who tells you that they do may have had an experience of their own. I mean, I've left my body before. I've been, and perhaps that's just a hallucination of consciousness. I don't know. But in studying the Buddha Sutras, and studying Buddha, and studying Lao Tzu, and Sun Tzu, and other other yogis, other philosophers, Alan Watts, Wayne Dyer, Eckhart Tolle, just great thinkers.
Or cultural leaders, whatever. Which cult? Everyone's in a cult. You're in a cult. I'm in a cult. Call it the government. Call it the book club. Call it the cosplay convention. But is it hurting you? If not, cool culture, If it's hurting people, not cool culture. Join all the damn cults you want. Join cults. I'm an advocate. Just don't join the destructive ones.
I no longer look at
Got a devil's haircut in my mind. Love that song.
the world the same. So when I feel these reprehensible emotions, I know that they are temporary.
So I was having suicidal ideations at the time and homicidal ideations at the time. A lot of domestic crap going on. Very high conflict divorce. In the horizon, I was seeing my future just crumbling. And there was nothing that I could really do about it except work my ass off and try to throw as much money as I could at what I wanted to salvage, which was ultimately not much. I just got away unscathed, so.
But I do feel them. And luckily, I have some skill and some, what I believe to be genetic a genetic disposition to be able to play music. It's just something that's come naturally to me in my life.
The reason I believe that is because when I met my brother, like it was instant, and the human genome had just been decoded fully in 1998 or 99, and I was reading a, a really nicely written article, which is rare to see these days, in Time magazine and Newsweek. Both had articles about it, and I was sitting to get my oil change. I remember, why do I remember this? But I remember reading this and making connections like, well, because they were insinuating that it might be possible that certain things may be communicated with genes related to skills and whatnot, but they didn't know yet because they had just fully sequenced the human genome. They were kind of just hypothesizing. Now that we have the full human genome, we can figure out maybe this happens or maybe this happens. In my mind, I've already confirmed it. I have my own confirmation bias because when I met my brother and we started playing music together, it was very, very instant and natural and effortless. And it's not like that with a lot of players that I've played with ever. It's not like that with anybody really, except my brother.
It was confirmed when I met my brother. Like the human genome hadn't been fully decoded, but before the human genome was decoded, I met my brother. And that was all the proof that I needed that genes played a factor and had a huge role in development of the mind and the body. Most of my biological family are musically inclined. So luckily I have a way to sublimate, which is to deal with emotions in a positive way. There are many ways you can deal with emotions. You can displace them. You can, my psych teacher would not be happy with me right now, but I get a pass because it's 4 a.m. and I woke up from a dream and I just decided to go take a drive. So, and I'm, this is a little stream of consciousness kind of thing happening. But you can do things with your emotions, and displacement is a very unhealthy way to deal with it. You get mad at something, you're upset about something, you kick the dog, or you cut yourself, or, you harm yourself, or you harm other people. I had some pretty negative emotions last night, and I just went and played my piano. And I wrote a pretty emo song. It's just not, it's not a very happy song. But I was able to work through those emotions with it. And that's a lot healthier than some of the other alternatives. So, people who are concerned about my mental health really need not be.
That was a concern at the time. People were concerned because I was posting, videos randomly, from the outside looking in, and it was a very clear picture. Like, I was a disturbed person. I was very disturbed. Had a lot of things going on, a lot of things on my mind, a lot of shit that people in my immediate environment didn't even really want to talk about, and I didn't want to talk about it with them. So, I documented this shit on YouTube.
There's a time for everything. You can't be happy all the time. It's just not the way of the world. I mean, things happen. We're human beings. We have feelings. Sometimes our feelings are not good. And to try to always feel happy is a good goal. But whenever you find yourself in a predicament or in a position emotionally where you don't feel comfortable, there needs to be a way to sublimate and to get those emotions, work through those emotions and experience them without harming anyone, including yourself. And that's what I learned in therapy. And as far as my beliefs go, I think that Jesus was great. I think that Buddha was great. I think that Lao Tzu was great. I think that Alan Watts was great. I think that Sun Tzu was great. There are many, many great people in our human history who have given us immense insight into the nature of who we are. L. Ron Hubbard was not one of them.
But he did cleverly combine a whole bunch of shit.
I did stand-up comedy the other day, and I talked about Scientology, and afterwards the guy who was doing the introductions, you know, the hype guy, he was like, "Oh yeah, little bit of wisdom from my homie L. Ron Hobo." I thought that was fun. So yeah, I think I've made it clear what I want to do. And I completely understand anyone who may be watching under some alias account.
Maybe I was talking about you, Commodore. Creating an alt account to come watch my videos even though you were in the hole.
That
Morning, Chad.
Doesn't believe me or doesn't think that what I'm saying happened, or that I'm just looking for attention, or that I've got issues outstanding that I need therapy for. But you can think what you want. My goal is to show so that people can see what it's like. Maybe I'll be done after that. Maybe that'll satisfy me. Because at this point, that's what I've been looking for. I want to see someone show what it's like. I don't want to hear the stories. That's why I don't watch the Leah Remini show. Maybe I should. Maybe there are reenactments.
I still haven't watched. I think I watched the first episode, and I just can't. I still feel this way. Like, I'm tired of the stories. I just want something to be shown so that it's like, oh, now we see. Okay, then we got to dismantle this immediately.
But if they aren't authentic, it would just piss me off. But I'm tired of hearing the stories.
Commodore. I remember that remark. It hurt to the core.
I'm tired of hearing the stories. The stories don't.
Oh, I was so excited, Chad, when the show came out. You know, you like Leah's show, but to each his own. It's more like I was going through similar things. You know, I probably could have like written in and said, "Hey, I could be on the aftermath too, because look at all this messed up stuff that's going on." But I didn't want to hear anymore. I had so much going on myself. And I knew that it was going to be as bad or worse, because it's always worse. And so I almost feel like I know the pain, because I know the pain, and you can almost see it on people. Or I feel like I can see it. then it's just hearing the same old story. It's like, oh yeah, of course that happened to you. Of course that happened to you. And then that happened to you. And then that happened to you. And it's so depressing to me. I just cry, you know. Uh Maybe I should, but I cried. I've cried. I've cried. I've cried. I still cry. So it's more of a like, I just, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I'm talking about tacos, man. I got chicken in the fridge I can make tacos with, I guess.
don't get me wrong. I have empathy and sympathy for everyone.
Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna say, Chad. I I love the show, even though I've never watched it, because I love what it did. I love that A&E picked it up. I love that Leah, had a hand in production. I love that Mike was involved. I love that all those people were involved. Aaron, Nathan, Christy, and all of the others that I've met and probably didn't even know were on the show when I went to Clearwater. Um, and but at the same time, I really felt over time like really bad because for them on the show, because like some of these were very fresh out people or had never even gone on YouTube or anything, and now they're on freaking national television and also processing tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of grief and abuse and trauma. So um, that may have been easier for some than others, and for some it may have really, really been bad.
Who's been on staff and everyone who's been, a victim of Scientology. And I am interested in what happened to them insofar as that they need to get it off their chest. They need to talk about it. But what I'm not interested in is this proliferation of Scientology stories for the sake of novelty. And wow, what a fucked up cult that is.
And I do feel like that was when the Aftermath first came out, people were grabbing their popcorn. They're like, oh yeah, I want to see some crazy cult shit. And that there were people doing that. And that's what I'm trying to say here, I think, is that just made me nauseous. The whole that's the whole concept of the freak show. It's like, oh yeah, let's watch people suffer. It's almost like, I'm making broad comparison here, but like The Voice or America's Got Talent, these people are brought in front of a massive stage, an audience of people, and sometimes on purpose are humiliated on purpose in front of all these people, purposely. I'm not saying that's what the Aftermath was at all. I'm just saying that there is sort of a parallel in what that does to the subject, having that huge spotlight on you, psychologically speaking.
Not interested in that. Not interested in holding my content back and holding it back and just releasing it in tiny little morsels and trying to get views and trying to get.
Now right there is a comment mostly about journalism in general and how journalists like to do things. So like they want to get a whole bunch of information and then just sit on it and then release little bits. And that wasn't what I was into. Like I needed to express myself, and letting little bits pieces out at a time was not going to do it for me at that time. I needed to have a full range of expression.
Popular based on the fact that I was a Scientologist. I could give two fucks about that, okay?
Okay, wow. You mad, bro?
I want people to see. A picture is worth 1,000 words. What would an entire video of seeing what it's like being on staff. Show people. What kind of response would that elicit? I'm not a Hollywood producer. I don't have thousands of dollars to spend on a project like this. So I'm going to do it the best that I can. But I will say that the best that I can is not bad. I've done 4 records since I moved here.
Toot, whatever.
Audio is half of what makes a good movie. Did you know that? You could have a great movie, a great script, and great acting, but if the audio isn't there, no one's going to really connect to it. Music and audio and being able to hear what's happening, the nuance is crucial. I'm not a cinematographer. I'm not a videographer.
I feel you on that, Lorna Huddleston. Sometimes I feel I'm beyond a lot of the Scientology. Don't want to relive and explain for thrill seekers who are getting cheap thrills regarding cult stuff. Some people just want to hear about celebrity Scientology freaks. So we're, on the same page on that. And it's at different times been aggravating, the same thing with Chris. Chris and I have talked about this. It's like, the real issue isn't that when that is the majority of the viewers, you're losing the power that you need to make a change, to get rid of this, to get rid of it. So, it's a back and forth. Stop and check yourself before you wreck yourself, kind of thing. Am I broadcasting for the right reasons? Always trying to figure that out. Make sure that the message is the right one. No one's perfect.
I'll be shooting this shit on my phone. My phone.
That was the end. I'll be shooting this shit on my phone. All right. Selena, I'm more about the people than the sort of cult porn aspect. I'm not into the gossip as much as the human connection and injustice. Yeah. And so what I've seen since my early videos almost a decade ago is more people like that. Quantity was never a thing for me. Am I reaching people? Are they understanding? Are we getting more of an understanding of what is going on? And if that is true, then that's the right thing. If I'm getting a lot of drive-by traffic, wanting to hear about my suicide story, while that may be helpful for some people, it's probably, a smaller, well, I don't know, mental health crisis, who knows? But I think, if the people are hearing the correct message as to, and what is correct message, to me, the correct message is that this is still happening currently, as we speak, still, years later after I made this video. And we've seen some really positive growth in terms of, like, Selena said, like, you're not here for the cult porn. Um, that's, there's a lot of people who aren't. I think that in the initial aftermath wave of viewers and audience, a lot of those people that were there for the cult porn, they've moved on to other kind of porn. And the ones that genuinely, like you, are looking for the human connection and to stop the injustice, stick around, because, like, yeah, there's still there's still things to unearth and uncover and to expose and to ultimately shut it all down, because it's nothing but a human trafficking operation and a sex trafficking operation and a custom tailor celebrity, maybe even government pimping agency for children and adult trafficking. Um, you know, that's what it is. And it's a church. Now, is that any different than the Roman Catholic Church of the last centuries, however many, 700 centuries? The Vatican, I don't know how many centuries, how many popes, but I mean, there's really no refuting the abuses in the Roman Catholic Church, and it is a church. So this is just another church, right? And yeah, showing what I was talking about in this video, more than anything else, was that I wanted to show people an accurate representation on film of what it's like being on staff or SO and the interactions between the two, and even CLO, these big, organizations, and small, like from the small to the big, and show how dehumanized it truly is. And that would be sufficiently horrific, I think, to garner some attention, especially if it was, produced well and distributed well. It could really get some wheels turning, because it would be very salacious. It would be very salacious. It would be everything that both people want, both demographics want. It would be everything about the cult porn people want. It would be everything about those that are looking for human connection and to fight the injustice want, because it shows it. Is that grok compute? And Mock is, oh yeah, totally right. Scientology isn't that special. They're just more intent and professional about it. Yeah, Roman Catholic Church been doing this for 1,000 years. Same exact stuff. Same stuff. Nothing new under the sun. But Scientology is just a new kid on the block. And let's see, Belladonna, is it any different from the Roman Catholic Church or any dominant religion in history? Hell no. No. Selena, if LRH was around 2000 or so years ago, it might be a major religion by now. Absolutely. Bach, SPTV and YouTube helped as they allowed unedited stories not overseen by suits, unfiltered in your own words. Right. History, culture, 2,000 years covers a lot more everything than 1950s church. That's true as well. Yeah. The thing is, Miss Huddleston, and I love the Bible. I have a copy right here. I love Psalm 129. I love Psalms. I like the book of Mark, Matthew, and David. And I used to love reading Revelations. The thing is, there's wisdom in there. It's really, quite, uh, it's been edited. I believe it has been edited so many times. And, 2,000 years, that's a long time. We know the Romans edited it. We know King James had a version edited. And God knows what they took out and how they use it. And also, same as David Miscavige, they can change things around to suit their own needs. So deriving meaning from Bible quotes is almost like a divining skill, because you have to pull all the bullshit out of it. And I don't mean any disrespect by that. Not saying the Bible's bullshit. I don't think that. But um, there are a lot of different translations, and there's 2,000 years worth of wisdom, and you bet that they've borrowed and taken stuff from other places and added it in and taken things out. Um, and yeah, great stories in the Bible, Selena says. Um, the Book of Wisdom. Yeah, books are great. Um, the Nazis would burn books. Scientology is so much like the Nazi National Socialist type stuff that it's crazy. If they had the ability, they would kill. This is not a joke. This is not a ask any SPTV person or ex-Scientologist whether they've been fair gamed or not. If they think if Scientology had the right, or the not even necessarily the right, but the justification and means and the ability to account for the deaths somehow, that they wouldn't kill every single one of the SPs. And anyone who was not a Scientologist and didn't want to be a Scientologist would be excluded until a point to where the majority of the population is Scientologists, and the rest would either be mercy killed, like Hitler did with all the infirm and the elderly and the mentally handicapped, disposed of. So, welcome home, Beach. Glad you made it back, dude. Which book? All religions decide how they want to read the book. Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was talking about, translations. You just got back. Witness, they did not put in specific books, left them out because they contradicted each other. Nicaea Council. Selena, I read the King James Version as an adult when I worked at summer camp in the Bible Belt, but I grew up in Salvation Army, and they definitely had a different version that was much harder to read. Yeah, and they're different for sure. Mock Scientology does like to steal from the ones that stole from the best. Absolutely, that's intelligence. Belladonna, the Nazi regime was filled with the Vril and Thule societies. Scary Scheisse. I don't even know what those are. I'll have to look those up. Miss Huddleston, in past incarnations, I'm pretty sure I was in convents, the place to learn to read and write. Church was the place for higher education, making music and writing. Yeah, great point. I mean, we would not have Western music had it not been for Johann Sebastian Bach and his perfectly tuned, or what is it called, the well-tuned clavier. He developed the system that we used in the West and codified music in a way that we enjoy to this day. Would not have been possible without the Roman Catholic Church. I mean, yeah, all of these groups, all of these cultures can produce results that are amazing, um, and they can produce things that are absolutely terrible. Um, just like the doctors from the concentration camps produced a lot of amazing medicine, revolutionary medicine at the time, but at the cost of these people's lives. Um, morality comes into play on an individual basis, right? Um, but if you have a very convincing group or coercive group, then morality can be enforced as a group, and there's danger in that for sure. Um, Bible left out Gnostic good stuff. That Revelations was somebody else's bad acid trip. Yeah, yeah. Gnosis. I mean, there were uh, very famous, maybe even saints. I don't know if there were saints, but there were monks that wrote about Gnosticism. Catholic monks writing about Gnosticism. You don't find a lot of that. It's hard to find. If you're interested in that, Alan Watts talks about quite a bit of that. If you just Google or YouTube Alan Watts Gnosticism, um, and so does Wayne Dyer. He did quite a bit of research, but he did more research on the eastern side of things with Patanjali. Um, so yeah, let's see. Uh, Beachcomber, Sophia. What did Sophia say? Sophia? I don't see a Sophia. I see a Selena. Okay, well, yeah, the Bible is very much a propaganda book, as is the Wiz book. What is Scientology? There's still a lot of things in there that are useful, workable, but it's a propaganda book, and those useful things are used to to well, I always called them hooks. They're used to hook you like a bait. They're bait. So, oh, Sophia is mock. Okay, great. Um, the printing of the Bible made mass education possible. Sure, learn how to read. Read the Bible. Better be reading your Bible, boy. Learn how to read. Um, Great point. Yeah, I mean, there are things just like with the medicine from the Nazis that pushed medicine forward leaps and bounds. Um, there's things in Scientology that could push EMDR and psychology leaps and bounds. Uh, but the just like the Nazi regime had to be dismantled, I believe that the Scientology regime, but it's a church, needs to be reclassified as a non-recognized entity, just a business, if you will. Maybe an MLM, something like that. Maybe they could run an MLM. Uh, it's just too destructive and too risky, even with the low numbers that they have, because the Nazis had very, very few uh, numbers, but it doesn't take a lot. Sun Tzu, this is, you know, why the Pentagon uses this. Everybody uses this. Sun Tzu, master of deception and war and conflict, and but also prefers to not have conflict. So you fight wars without fighting wars. You can do it with uh, violence or without violence, and you can do it with small numbers of very efficiently trained people. And so I don't think it's worth even a tiny risk of Scientology becoming the next Nazi party. A lot, I would hope that at this point, many people would know that Scientology would not be a good elected official. But just 10 years ago in Greece, they elected neo Nazis into their government. So, you know, Uh, let's see what y'all are saying. Reclassify it as a paramilitary group, maybe. Yeah, sure. Um, Palo Alto, is that mid California? I can't remember if that's mid California. Medical research can get very far without ethical limits. Yeah, of course. Totally. So can psychological stuff. And that's what Scientology is. It's if anything, it's nothing but a one big psyop that you walk into that you can never walk out of ever. I really think that's the case. Like I walked into it and I'm always part of it. Um, I'm always going to be an agent slash asset for them, whether I'm aware of it or not. Because if I'm on their, SP list, I'm still involved. I'm still on their list. I'm still a potential, not trouble source, but I'm a potential target to elicit action in a community, in this case, our trauma community, and everyone else's too. Chris is a target, Doug is a target, Aaron's a target, Christy's a target. Every one of us are targets. Even the never ends are becoming targets. So, um, it's you know, for those that were never involved, that's something that you know I would that I it that, to me it takes a lot of courage to just to come out and support like has been done. So uh, much respect because now you're basically a full blown SP. If you are uh, targeted, be sure to keep your phone on you and take pictures and don't feel like you're that paranoid. And report that shit to Leah. You know, maybe we can keep getting information for her case. um, yeah, giant psyop. Eugenics of autistic people in the womb. That's absolutely horrific. Um, but so is the idea of my son and daughter's father being executed for being an SB. And it wouldn't be that. It would be a forced exteriorization for the betterment of the world because I'm so in Theta that the world is better off without me. And I'm just a body, so I can come back and hang out with my kids, right? The Quran states that the crucifixion was imagined by the mass and Allah made the people only think it happened. I didn't know that. And I didn't know that you were autistic, Selena. I am major depressive and PTSD and HPPD, hallucination perception persisting disorder. Took a long time to get all that figured out because I thought I was schizo, but and so did they. But we figured out that wasn't it. It's just another weird combo. So, uh, there you go. Now I know your thing. You know my thing. I do this every Monday at 10. I got a late start this morning because of the audio issues. I'm gonna have to figure that out. I don't know what the hell the deal was. I think it has to do with Restream and the fact that I had a support ticket open, and for whatever reason, the P220, the mic that I'm using, wasn't going to the stream. If I'd have disconnected Restream and connected directly to YouTube, that would have worked. But I didn't feel like doing that, and I didn't have the time. And the dude was PMing me messages like, "How can I help you?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm in the middle of a stream." So apologies for the delay this morning. I have to take a call from Travis, and it's been a real pleasure hanging out with everybody this morning. I'm going to try and make the pre-show with Chad tonight or this afternoon. So, and I've got massive amounts of editing to do in between all of the broadcasts. I appreciate the coffee. Thank you. I want to change the tab to see who it was, but I don't want to mess up the audio before the stream is over. So thank you. That helps a lot. It helps a ton because I don't have any income, and we're a single income household. So you're helping me buy groceries and pay for licenses to keep doing this, because at a certain point it just may stop, and it will probably be due to licensing issues and stuff like that. So yeah, keep that shit going if you can, if you're able, and I appreciate it very much. If there's anything that I can do for you other than what I'm doing, reach out. My email is on my About page in a section on my YouTube. And I'll see everyone, I'm sure, in other chats and other streams throughout the week. Start off the week. I hope your week starts off well. And I will see you guys on the next one. I'm going to play my outro. And we're going to call my brother.